Hello, my name is Jake Bullum. This is ISA 4220, and today we're going to be talking about database Preso. Okay, a database is a collection of information that is organized in a system so that it can be easily accessed and managed. It is a central location where data is stored. Data is organized in rows and columns for ease of managing information. Another thing is to always back up your database and maintain your database. So, database models. There's a relational model, and that uses columns and rows. It's the most commonly used, and it's most frequently still used today. You also have a hierarchical, and this is one of the older models, not the oldest. It uses a tree structure to find things inside the system. You also have a network and object-oriented. Object-oriented is more, it has visual items inside it, so it picks some video. The object-relational uses object-oriented languages and interfaces to be able to view the items inside the database. Okay, so one of these is Linux Postgres SQL. Postgres SQL is a general-purpose and object-relational database management system. It's open source software. It's mainly for Linux, but it's available in Linux, Unix, Mac OS, and Windows, and some other systems, operating systems. It has access and control restrictions, and it can be used to store pictures, videos, and sounds within it. And it has features standard complaints. Okay, so some hardware recommendations for Postgres SQL. Client authentication control is really important to have. Server configuration, and that's basically what IP address you'll be allowed to be connecting to the server and which ones you'll be able to both accept and allow incoming and outgoing information. User and role management. So you're going to add roles in the server about to who's going to have access to what. And you can have group roles as well added to it. So you can have a whole department within a company added to select features inside the entitle it and have them have select features and functions within a server, or you can have added roles for individuals as well. Data encryption, so you want to make sure your data in the system is always encrypted, and you can use data masking as well. Authenticate, so another thing is the AAA, or as I like to call it, the AAA method, which is authenticate, authorization, and auditing. So you want to make sure you're authenticating everyone who's being able to enter the system, to make sure they're who they say they are and they have the right credentials. That leads into authorization. So you want to make sure that they're with those right credentials, that they have the right amount of restrictions on there. They only have the need to know basis for their level of task or responsibility within their job. So you're not giving them more access to the system than they already need. You also want to make sure you have sessions, so that way you can monitor how long someone has that system, so they don't have it longer than they need to. Plus, that makes them re-authenticate their access to the system for the purpose of when you're authenticating multiple people at a time. It's hard to maintain all those authentications within the system, so you want to make sure that whoever needs to access the system is putting a request up for whatever time they need, and you can justify why they need it for that long. And then and then you give them access to that system. But if they need it longer, they can request more access to it. But that way, it automatically ends the session, so that way, or the access to the system, so that way, you don't have to go back and make sure you didn't forget you left somebody on a system or someone had access controls that you didn't want them already allowed. And that goes in with auditing. So auditing also is important because that makes sure that you're following those practices and that you're making sure that people are following those procedures and giving them the certain session keys that they need for the right amount of time, as well as making sure that the system's up to date and protocols are being followed in it, which also leads to implementing least privilege. If you can, also you want to use a virtual private desktop. That also helps with being able to utilize the system. So logging is also important. You want to be able to check logs to figure out who was in the system, when and where, and have accurate data of that. So all the way down to the quickest hours, so you can figure out something wrong, who was the last one to access it, and who also has getting access to the system. And that's where it comes also with two-factor authentication, because credentials can be compromised sometimes. So you have other data to call upon within a system. You can verify that that person who logged in the system was that person by using other various methods of authenticating data. If it doesn't check out, then that means either the credentials were compromised or there's another factor being in play. Patching is important too. That's checking your security information page regularly inside the system for important updates and making sure your security measures inside the system are constantly being updated. Making sure everything is going the way it should be. Alright, so that's my presentation on database systems. I hope you all have a great week.